4 months to year end, Nigeria hits revenue target.
The path to Nigerian recovery, we are on it. Go home, be assured.
And Vice President Shettima reaffirms Nigeria's commitment to Gulf of Guinea peace and stability.
Without effective cooperation and collaboration between the member states of the GGC, we can accomplish very little.
President Tinubu reverses Nigerian Television Authority appointments, recalls Director General Executive Directors to complete tenures.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss Renewed Hope Medium-Term Development Plan 2026 to 2030.
Nigeria is setting its sights higher with a brand new economic roadmap. It is called the Renew Hope Medium-Term Plan 2026 to 2030, and it was just approved by the National Economic Council. Claire.
Absolutely. Let's just think of it as this way, as the next chapter that comes after the 2021-2025 plan that will be winding down this December. Now, this new plan, we are told, is designed to build on ongoing reforms in the area of job creation, boosting food security, and of course expanding infrastructure, just as it also hopes to strengthen social protection and so on and so forth.
Yes, and the vision is bold. $1 trillion economy by 2030. That is in line with President Bola Tinubu's growth agenda.
Obviously, and it's not just word of mouth. There will be structures, key structures that will make this happen. And we hear there is a national steering committee. There's also central working group, and then we have the several technical working groups all together, bringing, of course, their voices from different sectors, cut across private sector, civil society, and of course the government.
In fact, the National Economic Council gave the green light just last Thursday at his 151st meeting. Preparatory work kicks off this month with a full launch expected before year's end.
And probably what may be refreshing in this new plan, development plan, is that it promises to be all-inclusive. And that means that it will involve collaborations from policymakers, communities, businesses, and you and I. That's the people we call the everyday Nigerians, hopefully.
Yeah, you're right, Claire. So this morning on Good Morning Nigeria, we are unpacking what this really means. Will it touch your pocket, create jobs in the community, and actually change daily realities? Big questions.
Big question. Just don't forget that this is just a guide, a plan, a footprint, roadmap to where we're going. And where we're going, Demola, is to hit $1 trillion by the year 2030. So we will be joined by experts in this business, and of course development experts who will help to break all of this down for us, the opportunities, the challenges, and of course the future this plan is painting for our dear country.
So stay with us today's program. I am Ademola Aduye. Welcoming you to the program once again, and it's good to have you join us.
Yes, I'm sure you know what Adeoye means. Anyway, all right, he comes with a crown. I'm Claire Adelabu Abdul-Razak, and you're watching us live on the NTA network service. Don't forget, you can also join the conversation on our social media handles. We are everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and so on and so forth. And of course, we have our number that you will be calling us on to send us also your contributions. Newspaper review will be coming up immediately after the news headlines with Stella Inamiti. Good morning, Stella.
Claire. And Ademola, here is the morning news. A new indication towards economic recovery has emerged as President Bola Tinubu says the country has met the revenue target for the year, even as at 4 months to the end of the year. The president revealed this while addressing a gathering of former members of the Congress for Progressive Change and the Buhari organization who visited him in the State House.
Today I'm standing before you, I can brag that Nigeria is not borrowing, it's dying from local bank. The revenue, we have met our target of revenue for the whole year. We met it in August. I've reviewed this morning. The path to Nigerian recovery, we are on it.
In another development, President Bola Tinubu has directed all security agencies to strategize better and re-energize for better results in tackling insecurity in parts of the country. The president himself revealed the directive while addressing a delegation from Katsina State eminent stakeholders who visited him.
The honor you have given to our leader, the former President Muhammadu Buhari, we cannot stop thanking you.
Directed all the security agencies to energize further, to look at the strategy again, additional deployment of air drones.
The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has addressed an open letter to the Nigerian people, highlighting his administration's commitment to national development and unity. The president in a letter says, and I quote, "Dear Nigerians, I took an oath to serve all Nigerians, not a section. That oath guides every bridge, road, rail, power and health project we deliver. From the Lagos-Calabar Highway in the south to the Sokoto-Badagry Super Highway in the north, from Port Harcourt-Meduguri Rail in the east to Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Expressway in the center, and the Trans-Saharan Highway connecting African countries. These are not local trophies. They are our national assets. Health centers are being rehabilitated nationwide. Light rail projects in Kano, Kaduna, Lagos, and Ogun have been given the green light. 250,000 jobs are being created. Power is returning to Kaduna through the revived 255 megawatt power plant. Bridges in Onitsha and Bonny reconnect our people. Oil exploration is expanding in Bauchi and Gombe, and the AKK pipeline has crossed the Niger. Every farmer who needs a road, every trader who needs power, every child who needs a school, every patient who needs care. This is who we are building for. This is the equity of renewed hope. No Nigerian is second class. No region is left behind. Together we will rise as one nation, one people, and one destiny. Bet on Nigeria. End of quote from the president's letter. Nigeria is committed to the peace, security, and stability of the Gulf of Guinea, particularly in ensuring full implementation of ongoing maritime reforms. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this when he received the Executive Secretary of the Gulf of Guinea Commission, Mr. Jose Mba Abeso, and his team on a courtesy visit to the presidential villa.
I want to reaffirm once again our full unalloyed commitment to the ideals, to the objectives of the GJC. I want to commend the leadership of the GJC for the relative peace we are experiencing. Issues of piracy are diminished.
President Bola Tinubu has ordered the reinstatement of Salihu Abdul Hamid Dembos as Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, effective immediately. Dembos will now return after briefly vacating the post following recent management changes in the agency. Dembos was appointed DG of the TV network by President Tinubu in October 2023. He will now return to complete his 3-year tenure. The president similarly directed the recall of Ayo Adeoye, the executive director of news, to complete his 3-year tenure, which ends in 2027. Adeoye was appointed by President Tinubu in 2024. The new directive effectively reversed the previously announced appointments of a Director General, Executive Director of News, Executive Director of Marketing, and Managing Director of NTA Enterprises. And those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ademola and Claire after the commercial break. Please don't go away.
By the special grace of God, I will be turning 65 years old on the 21st September 2025. And this happens to be a Sunday. This is why I have decided to dedicate the day to God for all His blessings in my life and having a quiet birthday. I wish to appeal to those who would like to send a birthday card, cakes, flowers, greetings in the newspapers, or gifts, should please send the funds to the designated account for a special project close to my heart, among many others. The completion of the National Library. This will be the best birthday present I could receive. My love for education has informed my decision to dedicate my birthday to this worthy cause. This fund is coordinated by the Federal Ministry of Education under Oluremi at 65 Education Fund, Zenith Bank PLC. Account number is 131,031,4977. Thank you for joining me in this building project. God bless you.
Give more strength to your hair with Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener. It's infused with nourishing oils and conditioning proteins so you can say goodbye to hair breakage. Wow! Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener.
For an exclusive 3-time skin effect, try Nivea Men Deep powered by Black Carbon. For 48-hour deep moisture, a fresh skin feel, and a long-lasting masculine fragrance. Make an impact with Nivea Men Deep Impact Body Lotion. Try Nivea Men Deep Roll-On for 72-hour antibacterial sweat protection.
Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish your kids. Milo 3-in-1 is such a smart choice. Milo, energy to go further.
From Nestle.
Have you been aspiring to be a student of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University Zaria to no avail? Worry no more, as you can gain entry through NTA Television College Jos, an affiliate of the renowned Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, where eligible candidates with a JAMB admissible scores of not less than 180 and 100 scores, and with 5 credits O-level in social sciences including English and mathematics, can turn their passion in broadcasting to profession by applying for a BSc in Mass Communication and MBTE approved innovation diploma courses in film and television production, broadcast journalism and television engineering respectively. The college, as a training hub with a pedigree of professionalism in the media space, also offers specialized courses in other related fields. For more information, visit our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or contact 08033 834-343 and 080-69-809-897. Announcer Management.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next on the program is Newspaper Review.
All right, welcome back to the program. And Chukwudi Okodebuaja is right here with us to review the newspaper. Chukwudi, good morning.
Claire, how are you doing? Good morning.
Very well.
Good to see you guys again, as usual.
You
good breakfast for me all the time.
Talk. You know, before we quickly take, Demola said I talk too much, and I said yes, I'm only representing my
Did
gender.
you tell him
but
you talk like
you take
Chukwudi?
it, but you take it to postgraduate level, you know.
But I make happy noise. That's my own. When quarrel come, Chukwudi go tuck his head between his legs like frightened dog. Wakago.
You see what I mean?
I know I talk. I'm a parrot, but I make happy noise. I keep people happy.
All right, let's quickly take a look at the newspapers. I have the blueprint, and it has, of course, the very cheering news. Nigeria has met revenue target. Won't borrow locally again. Alleged fears of Trump's economic policies and orders security review in Katsina. That's the lead story. There are a number of stories trending here. The front page, of course, there are political stories. I'm just trying to sift through the major one. Infrastructure deficit. Nigeria needs to spend $100 billion annually for 23 years. This is coming from BPE, working on 50 million jobs for citizens. That's also there on the front page. Kogi monarch Wada kidnapped by gunmen. And there are also sports stories here. World Cup qualifiers, it will be Simon Ndidi others in Super Eagles camp. And NOA committed to tackling threats to Nigeria's safety and unity, and that's coming from Director General. But just atop the nameplate, that's in Kanu. Police arrest 107 suspects, recover weapons, drugs in 1 month. All right.
What about the other one? Okay, let me take this, then you take the other one. All right, I have the Daily Trust here, and just below the nameplate, Tinubu sets aside NTA appointments, recalls DGED News. That's on Daily Trust. Details on page 40. Obasanjo, Abdusalami, Jonathan push for accessible healthcare. Details on page 39. Fresh quake in Afghanistan as death toll rises to 1,400. Thugs disrupt Katsina elders meeting as rather lead stakeholders to Tinubu. Details of the story can be found on page 4, 5, and 6. Then we have the front page picture there, President Bola Tinubu with the delegation for Katsina State led by the governor, and after their meeting at the presidential villa in Abuja yesterday. President meets CPC bloc, says Nigeria not borrowing locally. PDP insists on conversion despite new demands from Wike's camp. Details on page 14. Experts predict Naira stability. CBN injects fresh $50 million. Super Eagles hit camp for World Cup qualifiers. Yes. Yeah. So.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I think I have the business Nigeria. The business Nigeria is talking about forex stability, and it says Chinese traders now prefer Naira to the dollar.
That's good development.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
and then of course we also have U.S. slams $80 duty on Nigerian shipments, and this confirmation is coming from NIPOS. It's on page 11. The Tinubu hails Adesina's transformative decade at AFDB. DB that's African Development Bank, Wema, Fidelity, other tier 2 banks under pressure ahead of CBN 2026 deadline, and BPE, Bureau of Public Enterprises, to list Discos, Genco on stock market via IPO. And of course, my policies serve all Nigerians, no region left behind. That's all right. That's the outlook of the business Nigeria this morning. Chukwudi.
Yeah, Claire. Thank you very much. Tinubu sets aside NTA appointments, recalls DG ED News. What I tell people in life is to have equanimity built into how they live. Let God always lead you all the time. I thank God that somebody I sent a message to, I would have opportunity to remove shame that dotted my life. He knows what I'm talking about. All's good, all's well that ends well. We continue where we had stopped at that time, because it's been a pleasant journey.
You know, I was going to.
It's been a pleasant journey.
I was going to do a little, you know,
write-up. There was friendliness I didn't deserve from those quarters.
I wanted to do a little write-up on life's paradox.
That's how it works.
Life's paradox.
That's how it
like
works.
A classroom.
And I tell people, when things happen, stay professional about whatever happens. Don't inject emotions into it, because life is going to continue anyway. That's how it works.
Yes.
You know,
opens a page.
Them all. Life goes on.
But let's look at President Tinubu's statement, which is, of course, is running through all the papers.
Yes.
There are two things. One, we're going to, you know,
no more local borrowing.
No more local borrowing, but we are going to be prudent. We're going to manage our resources prudent, based on local resources, not based on, you know, foreign or whatever is happening in other parts of the world. He specifically talked about President Trump's policies that we shouldn't be mindful.
You know, I'm sure the likes of Demola are tired of listening to this. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu is a very competent person. What we need to do is to allow time to repair many of the things that I've not said he's excellent, but so far so good. I said 2 days ago, I went to buy akara, and the woman said, I said, Madam, it's getting bigger. What did happen? He said, things don't they come down. You see, my economics, now people economics, not be the elitist ones. That one is for Professor
Walefo,
Bismarck, Rewani, and the rest of them. My own local one, the one that services my mother. He said, big because beans don't come down. This time last year, it was 3,200. It's 1,400 today. Something is happening. Let's be factual about it.
But let me ask
That's
you,
it.
Let me ask you. The concern many Nigerians usually raise about debt and borrowing. Most times they don't even, maybe they pay little or no attention to even our local borrowing. The concern mainly is on the external borrowing.
Yes.
But what do you think, with the emphasis on, look, we will not borrow locally again? That cuts off one part of the problem.
You know, since we don't want to portray Tinubu as an angel and his administration, we also would say, DMO, Debt Management Office, are you advising Oga and the cabinet when you should, when the red line is being reached? These are things you just have to say out of sincerity for love of country and all that. But on the whole, you can have a feeling of where it is all going. Things are going to keep on getting better and better and better. I found out in running my own life that some of the monies I borrowed were not supposed to have been borrowed. We are talking about the greater Nigeria, but it's like your personal economy. Many of us are in trouble today because we do not check what we spend.
Your excesses.
Exactly. We've got to the level now where we say things are coming down. The only thing is that the money paid to Demola Claire and these wonderful cameramen isn't still up to what can purchase them something that will make them comfortable. And I'm happy that very soon NLC and the other trade unions will sit down with the presidency again and talk about the next minimum wage. It continues. Let people be positive. My father should have talked to so many people in life so that they get drunk with optimism. You know, he's dead now.
Yeah,
so.
well,
It's also allaying. Sorry, Demola.
Yeah.
It's also allaying fears over Trump's economic policies.
It is national television.
No?
He's a president, so.
They are both presidents.
Actually, what I tell everyone is use this opportunity to tear yourself away from America's apron strengths. That's what I tell everybody. But can you see what happened yesterday? The kind of weapons that Xi, that's the Chinese leader, displayed yesterday in the presence of Putin, in the presence of the North Korean leader, in the presence of India that has rivalry with China and all that, the world is changing. I think Americans need to talk to their president to have a change of heart over certain things. The blocks are changing. The power blocks are changing in the world. Xi made a point yesterday. It was not just displaying that parade to mark the end of the Second World War.
But you will say also
it showed the clout of China, and I'm sure that Washington, D.C. is quaking over what happened just about 5 hours ago. You know? So it's not just a Tinubu thing. On our own, let us make sure that we are less dependent on good old America and all that.
Dollars.
We have to grow on our own.
Okay, let me seal my mouth.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anyway.
Are you done?
Are you done?
No, there are more. If
Oh,
you
yeah,
have-
no.
Your mouth can spill more. That's what he's telling you.
Please.
Talk on.
Okay, the infrastructure deficit. The infrastructure deficit.
I
Sorry,
thought you were
just-
going to talk about this FX stability. Chinese traders now prefer naira to dollar. Just in continuation of what you were
are
talking
just
about.
talked into what we were.
Yes.
Tinubu has, the government has a conscious path of dragging this country out of the doldrums. It's going to get better. I said it's not just a President Tinubu thing. It's actually a Lagos access thing. Go to Oshodi. Flowers now grow in Oshodi. When I was in the Yanokbaja, I wasn't on Victoria Land. I don't want to flatter myself. I knew how that place was. It is that same mentality. I'm not saying that any part of this country knows more than the other country, but when you see people growing, like say the truth.
Transforming.
It's very important. Is that access?
transformation
That's the
that
way
is
they think.
happening.
Iyalo, they started paying tax readily in Lagos because they said we saw what we were paying tax for. I did a documentary. You know?
All right. Chukwudi, I don't know how many people will believe with you with your Lagos model.
Well,
but indeed, there are
from Delta, but I didn't say Delta model.
There are development models.
When Delta comes up to the level of Lagos, I'm going to tell you they're doing well too.
All right.
You want to talk about this issue of my policies serve all Nigerians, no region is left behind.
Well,
you
know the problem I have with us. Northwest Development Commission. Then everybody started asking for Southeast, started asking for the Southwest and all that. We should not be petty about it. Government saw an area that needed attention because of things happening and focused on it. But it didn't mean that other regions were being left aside. It was a question of if Demola does not feel well, NTA does not totally feel well, because you are part of the whole, you understand? That was what happened with Northwest. But people started saying, oh, we are left behind and all that. I don't think anybody is left behind.
The tell is equity.
I don't think so.
The tell is equity. Chukwudi, thank you. And please.
Have I ever talked again?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Seaport calling kettle black.
I have to live my life.
The producer is saying sign off.
That's where I am.
Chukwudi, Seaport calling kettle black.
Bless
anyway,
you.
It's okay.
Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. It's good to
Yes.
have you again.
Thank you
We'll
so
see you
much.
tomorrow.
See you guys.
All right, we'll take a break now. The conversation will kickstart after the break. Stay with us.
By the special grace of God, I will be turning 65 years old on the 21st September 2025. And this happens to be a Sunday. This is why I have decided to dedicate the day to God for all His blessings in my life and having a quiet birthday. I wish to appeal to those who would like to send a birthday card, cakes, flowers, greetings in the newspapers, or gifts. Should please send the funds to the designated account for a special project close to my heart, among many others. The completion of the National Library. This will be the best birthday present I could receive. My love for education has informed my decision to dedicate my birthday to this worthy cause. This fund is coordinated by the Federal Ministry of Education under Oluremi at 65 Education Fund, Zenith Bank PLC. Account number is 131-031-4977. Thank you for joining me in this building project. God bless you.
Nivea Black and White Deodorant, now with 72-hour protection. But what does that mean? 3 cities in 3 days and no fear of sweat and odor. 120 dances with skin as smooth as the moves. Sweat, stain and odor protection. Nivea Black and White Deodorant. Skin is for embracing life. Nivea is for skin.
Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish your kids. Milo 3-in-1 is such a smart choice. Milo, energy to go further.
From Nestle.
We're not in a romantic relationship, we're in a dash.
Brotherly relationship. Friends with benefits.
Yeah, very bad boy.
No. Family relationship.
Who be your family?
Situationship.
Are you in a situationship?
It is well.
Survey says... Hey!
Onenge is my girlfriend.
You want dodge? Thank God. Say I hacked. An oversized shirt is okay to wear, but an oversized dash isn't.
Skirts.
Bro.
Shop. Wow.
Pants. Whoa. Name something you add to your text to make them more interesting.
Emojis.
Stickers, pictures.
The way we back at the breathing, at the yara.
Gifts.
Survey says.
My birthday.
All right, welcome back. And it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service. And like I said earlier on, this is the part where, of course, we discuss very critical issues that affect, collective development. And so we would also like you to be part of our conversation. Once we start, we will put out the number to send your comments on the screen. So our conversation this morning is on Renewed Hope Medium-Term Development Plan 2026 to 2030. And we have a background report put together by Ibrahim Dan Amidu.
The National Economic Council, at its 151st meeting, approved 2 major decisions. First, to strengthen polio vaccination coverage, now rising from 81 to 84%. With a fresh focus on routine immunization. And second, to give the green light for the implementation of the Renewed Hope Medium-Term Plan, 2026 to 2030. This 5-year strategy is more than a document. It is a blueprint that seeks to consolidate economic reforms, drive inclusive growth, and place Nigeria on course for a $1 trillion economy by the year 2030. Announced by the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu. The plan is anchored on President Bola Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda and builds on the gains of the 2021 to 2025 development plan now winding down. Its pillars are broad but clear: job creation, human capital development, food security, infrastructure, energy, security, and poverty reduction. To put it simply, it is about getting Nigeria to work, building schools and hospitals, expanding farms and factories, repairing roads and rail, and turning our oil, gas, and renewables into engines of national prosperity. By 2027, the target is a minimum of 7% growth each year, and by 2030, an economy big enough to support millions of jobs, reduce poverty to less than 1%, and give young people opportunities to thrive in technology, agriculture, and industry. But like every ambition, the challenges are real. Nigeria is still confronted by high inflation, rising debt service, and the urgent need to diversify beyond oil. The success of this plan will depend on how well federal and state governments, the private sector, and local communities pull together. As Nigeria turns the page to this new chapter, the questions are simple but profound. Can this plan translate from policy to reality? Can it deliver tangible change to farmers in Kano, traders in Aba, students in Katsina, and entrepreneurs in Lagos? Up next on Good Morning Nigeria, economic experts, policy minds, and strategists will help us unpack the Renewed Hope medium-term plan, its promises, its pitfalls, and the pathway to making it truly a people's plan.
Very much, Ibrahim, for that, for those salient questions that you asked there. Can it actually translate to meeting the yearnings of the ordinary Nigerian? All right, joining us to discuss the Renewed Hope medium-term plan 2026 to 2030, we already have in the studio our regular guest, Dr. Emeka Okengu. He's the development economist. Dr. Okengu, it's good to have you again.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right. Also joining us here is Dr. Niyi Akinshiju. He is the financial and investment analyst and chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative. Thank you, Dr. Akinshiju.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you again.
All right, and joining us via Zoom is Dr. Samson Simon. And Dr. Simon is Chief Economist, ARC Economics and Data Limited. Dr. Simon, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Let's start with some clarifications.
Yeah.
And I know that a development plan, by the name plan, it's a plan. It's a guideline, in a structure that aids, in executing something. But I just want let us give it some economic base. Let me start with Dr.
Maybe you can give us an
Yes.
explanation of what the Renewed Hope medium-term plan, and how it aligns with, government long-term development goals.
Yeah, I think sometimes in 2020, the federal government came up with an idea of a long-term development plan on the back of the retirement of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan then. The ARGP was conceived and implemented as a framework to lead us out of the recession of 2016. It was a 4-year plan, and to a large extent, I think that it accomplished some of the basic objectives, of the plan. So, what is a development plan? It's essentially a projection of a framework of what critical macroeconomic and sometimes microeconomic indicators would be achieved. You set an objective over a period of time, medium to long term. Medium as in 5 years that we have, and long term, 30 years. Nigeria has a 30 years long term development plan, which is the Nigerian Economic Agenda 2050. And out of that, you now have this subset of 5 years medium-term plans as a kind of a chain of projections, so that you don't wait until 2050 before you of course, do your evaluations and see your possible accomplishments. You've had the 2020-2025 development plan. And of course, some of us were excited because anytime if you follow an economy, you are excited when the development plan is infused into the possible realization of objectives, because that is what the foundation of the nation's economy was actually built on. The 1960 to 1963 development plan. And you had those development plans breaking during the war, the Civil War, and then on continuing until 1974, 75, thereabouts. And since then, we jettisoned it. It does mean that when you don't have a development plan, you are actually impulsive, in your policy implementation. And it's also usually, limited to 12 months annual budget planning schedule. And of course, we know that even to deliver 100 kilometers road, you can't do that possibly in 12 months. So it's better to have a plan, that you can conceive possible projects, that will be delivered in that during that period. Conceive the basic macroeconomic indicators. What size do you want your GDP, your gross domestic product, to be over the next 5 years, over the next 30 years? What will be the inflation rate that you want to target within this period? What will be the interest rate and all that? And of course, what will be the well-being of the people in that jurisdiction? I think basically those are what the development plan looks at.
Okay.
Doctor,
Mr. Kengo,
Dr.
he has told us that it's a guide. It's a plan, and I'm just wondering if it's a guide, what then is the use if we cannot, it cannot be translated, into execution or action plans?
Well, I didn't hear him say guide. I heard him.
It's development. It's a guide.
I heard him. He said.
Yeah,
so
he said.
Don't misquote him. What he said is a framework.
Yeah.
Okay, a framework necessarily has guidelines, but it's not a guide. So it's important that you don't take a knee. Yes, and he's sitting here. For me, I've been fortunate to have been part of most of the national technical working groups of these plans. I was in the Vision 2010, I was in the Vision 2020, I was in the National 30-Year Master Plan. I was even in the ERGP plan, and I was in the midterm national development plans, the one between 2021 to 2025. So what it is, it's that what you have is an aggregation, of thoughts and actions vis-a-vis, now break them into sectoral plans that can now begin to now support or facilitate, some kind of triple helix development models. What do I mean by triple helix? Where you have the government, where you have the academia, where you have the civil society, like you mentioned in your intro, coming in together to share some thoughts on how you can be able to do these frameworks that Nii rightly pointed out. Now, but let me now bring it to the guide that you're talking about, so we can now conceptualize it. A guide is necessarily not an advisory. So it's important to also conceptualize it. When it's an advisory, most advisories will now come, with statistics, and then subsets and timelines. Now, because of the kind of budgetary systems that we run, most of these things now, this has always been my challenge. In fact, in one or two of those things, I tried to develop a minority report. And I said to them, the missing thing here is that you must be able to now have the legal, backup. You must legalize this so that if you put it in appropriation, like we did with the ERGP, in fact, if you go and look at the budget now, you find out that budget lines are listed as ERGPs. The budget subheads now, if you look at it, if you look at national budget, you'll be seeing ERGP number. So it's now coded because you had that legal, framework that now, legalized the application of the ERGP. So to answer you very directly, part of the problem we have is that we're making it a national project, and it now sits on the table of the federal government. So it becomes very easy to start or difficult to start building from the roof. Okay, you need to be a magician to do that. But if you localize it, just like you brought the experts, to sit around the table at the instance of the federal government. Now, what usually happens is that these documents are now discussed at the National Economic Councils where you have the states. But who sits in that state council is not the person who should now be implementing. It's usually the governors. I'd been invited to one of the NEC meetings in 2016, I think. About 6 or 7 of us are invited to interface with the governors there and give our own thoughts.
Okay.
But you need to dip into the subnationals because this is where the practitioners are. You understand what I'm saying? You should be able to, like discussing now, you should be able to now have zonal, ERGP labs or renewed hope labs to now dip in this. And then thereafter, this is important, and that's why I'm going to be resting. Where you have the foundation is not at the state level. Where you have a foundation is at the CDC, not even the local government. Now, what is CDC? The community development, committees. This is the most important. Now, this is where you now get that community buy-in into now building that foundation that can now begin to scale up, your plan. So it's a good plan. It's a good guide. It's a good framework. Okay, all you just need to do is to probably now apply that triple helix, component to it, and then begin to now do pilots. The president had mentioned that we are going to be, getting 500,000 hectares of land under cultivation. Now, for me, that should be a pilot. Why should it be a pilot? Because if you have 84 million hectares of land, arable land, 500,000 should be a pilot. That's how big, that's how little we should be able to make what we think is big. Because you must be able to juxtapose against your whole.
Okay.
Now, if you do that, it now becomes possible for you to now bring everybody to contribute something, onto that guide.
Okay, let's bring in Samson. Dr. Simon, if you are with us, I'm just wondering now, just before we delve into the new development plan proper, because we'll be doing a little evaluation of others, and I'm glad that Dr. Kungu here has been in almost all of them, from Vision 2020 to ERGP. So he has a lot to tell us about those development plans and whether or not this one will be different. But I'm wondering, does it matter who gets is involved in the drafting of these development plans to make it even more realistic?
Can you repeat the question? I struggled to hear the last part, please.
Okay, I said, does it matter who is part of the drafting of this development plan? Just for it to be realistic and implementable.
Of course, it does matter. When you have a plan that is participatory, like the new plan we're talking about now, the medium-term plan, it's inclusive and it gives everybody a sense of belonging, instead of only the authorities now expected to develop these plans and to deliver. You are trying to make the plans to be our own plan, the plan for the Nigerian people, that everybody has been consulted, everybody has his opinions have been taken into account, whether you're part of the government or you're part of civil society or part of private sector or academia and so on. Everybody will have a sense of belonging and everybody will be nudged on to actually participate fully, because it has become the government now shoving it down our throats. So it's very important for everybody to see it as a collective plan instead of just a Tinubu plan or a Tinubu government plan. I think it's very important.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay. It is very important that everybody has a buy-in into the plan. Thank you, Dr. Simon. Let's come back to the studio. Dr. Akeshiju, we're still examining this plan and the workability of it so that it will trickle down to the community that, Dr. Ikengu talked about. This plan, does it really address the country's current economic challenges such as inflation, unemployment, infrastructural deficits, how it will better improve the living standard of the ordinary Nigerians?
Those are basically the targets, of any development plan. It's looking at how does a jurisdiction addresses issues in macroeconomic defaults. But what is essential is the inclusiveness of it, the inclusivity of it. It is a plan that is actually presented to different areas of government, for instance, to be adopted, and then, of course, to different sectors of the economy. The private sector usually plays a huge role. Okay. In the 2021-2025 plan, the weight of wealth to be created was as much as 380-something trillion, and it was expected that the private sector would be responsible to generate about 280 trillion out of that. I'm not too sure if that was accomplished. The target was for 21 million jobs to be created. I definitely know that 21 million jobs, were not created. So it's principally a medium to long-term targeting, projections of how do we ameliorate the basic challenges, in the macroeconomic environment. How do we situate the inflationary tendency within that jurisdiction? Of course, what GDP size do you want to achieve? How do you achieve this GDP size? And as Dr. Okengo said, you do not address these issues at that top level. It comes from the grassroots up. The grassroots has its own in terms of community engagement, but we also have the private sector that is actually the most desirable entity or the most desirable community to drive this kind of vision. Because any economy that depends on the government, to do things, as we have the tendency to do, we have the inclination to always believe that it's government that delivers so much, is always restricted, So I think in this matter, one of the major challenges of the 2021-25 development plan that limited its achieving those objectives, where I didn't see much of private sector facilitations, and of course the model we had then was that the federal government itself had also been incapacitated in terms of revenue generation to realize some of the infrastructural facilities that would have driven private sector, engagement and thriving too. But I think in the new setting, as it were, the basic withdrawal of subsidy, payments, the harmonization of the foreign exchange windows had become major points, for renewed source of revenue, for the federal government. I was excited today when I heard from the president's mouth that revenue projected for this year had already been met. That's a major accomplishment for Nigeria, because the concern for any analyst at the beginning of the year when the budget is presented is the possible shortfall of projected revenue to meet all these objectives, all these fiscal objectives. So now, if the president has said, we have met our revenue, and the president in his wisdom had also said that there will be no need for much of local borrowing. It has huge implication for private sector engagement. It does mean that most likely cost of credit will fall, because there is no competition for credit between the government and the private sector. And to that extent, it does mean that it will be easier for the private sector, to access funds at cheaper rates. Because at the time, you had the federal government crowding out the private sector. But now, if the federal government is going to step back in that sector,
means more possible access to funding by the private sector. And of course, it does mean that the private sector will be able, to flourish more. And of course, create more jobs, earn more money.
I like when we talk about creating more jobs and putting more money in our pockets, growing our GDP. Dr. Kengu, I know you know these things, but let's look at the 2021-2025 development plan, which will elapse in December, even before we look at the new plan, 4-year plan. And that plan promised, I hope I won't put you out of context, like Dr. Akishiju said, promised millions of Nigerians, millions of jobs, to lift, more than 30 million Nigerians out of poverty, grow the GDP. But by IMF mark, I don't think we've ever met the IMF GDP growth rate. Even though we may be increasing, we may be, trying. So I'm just wondering, if you look at this development plan, where is the gap? Where is the break?
That is a very good question. Where is the gap? The gap, first and foremost, is in your aggregation of your GDPs. Now, please note the word GDPs, not GDP, because you have different economies running, at the national and the subnational. But what people usually do is that because you only have MBS reporting, and it is administrative data is important, I also know that, on the activities of the federal government, which is that one level. Now, the other two economies, which are also as important, are hardly underreported. So when you look at job creation, you don't remember ever to now, because you don't have something, you don't have a compendium, you don't have a database that is online and real time. That updates, as it were, online and real time. Now, that's one part of the problem. The second part of the problem is that when you look at the expenditure of the federal government, you do not see any returns on investments. Vis-a-vis very clear input-output, and then you don't see the cash flows now being driven by what you call your project, development models, or your project finance models. And that is why it's difficult to see any creditworthiness when you're doing business with government. Because against what it is you do, you could see a ministry spend 1 trillion, and there is nothing that can be able to now check, that expenditure model, what is created, and I remember in one of the administrations, government now took a decision that any contract that was awarded will create some percentage of jobs. Now, I'll tell you where the two challenges now come. If you have a cash flow model that cannot be reported and juxtaposed against profit and loss, it becomes very difficult for you to attract investment. Most of the times, if you go to borrow money now, a lot of lenders will say to you, anything under $50 million, we're not interested. Now, by the time you bring in $50 million into a project, the local banks might not even be able to carry it. And this is, remember that we're pushing towards a $1 trillion economy. So what is important is that we need to begin to see business in budgets. The moment you begin to see business in budget, it makes it a lot easier for that budgetary component to complement what the private sector is doing. And then against what the private sector is doing, you now have a bulge or bulk that can now make you creditworthy to be able to bring in external funding. But it is a little difficult in some instances because for you to now go through that level, there has to be transparency. There has to be very clear governance frameworks that makes it difficult for influence, which no matter how much you want to discountenance it, is part of our project procurement systems. But I think the government is doing well. They should be commended. First and foremost, ministries have been allowed to do a lot at their level. I think they have up to about 50 billion or 5 billion that they can procure within their limits. So the moment you now put some cash reporting model against those procurements, you would have solved a very major problem. The second is that we don't have data. Like I said, this time we'll have this conversation about the MBS. Yes, the MBS will be able to give you data, but what the MBS gives you is what the agencies give them. And most of it is administrative. So we need to create a room for us to be able to now start drilling down to get those important economic development, data that can be able to now drive investment decisions that can clearly show to you, okay, look at you, beautiful, dressed. Now, everything you're wearing can actually, be part of an economy. Just like Demola, my brother, just like what I'm wearing. But nobody ever captures that. And the creation of a creative economy now might be able to now help us begin to now build these economic zones, special economic programs that begin to tie everybody. That person who's doing the button, the person who's doing the clothes, the person who's doing this. Now, where does all that come? How many jobs are you creating? And then when you're talking about job creation, remember that there are 3 kinds of jobs. You have the direct jobs, you have the indirect jobs, and then you have the jobs that come even out of the indirect jobs.
So these are gaps that need to be factored in.
So would you say from your analysis now that this plan is building on the previous development plans and the lessons that need to be learned have been learned?
Yes, you can't even build on a new plan. You must build on the existing plan. Because the first thing you do is, when you're doing a technical audit, okay, the first you do is to now look at the integrity of what is existing already. If you don't, you make mistakes. So what you have now are these things that you now need to check. This is where we're coming from. Where can we be able to get it better? But what is important is this revenue angle. But it also has a flip side. Okay, but I mean, it's not the conversation of today, I'm not going to be going there.
Yes, that's why I asked. So these gaps that you have pointed out would have to be factored in. But when we come to the new development plan proper, we'll look at if they have already been factored in. But let's talk about food security. And this is your area. You're a farmer, and you know that the number. Yes, you know that the vision, promised a lot of Nigerians to strengthen rural infrastructure and also agricultural, mechanisms just to boost and secure the food system. Let's interrogate the integrity of that, this present document.
Well, first and foremost, let's also take into consideration that the president himself, has said, I am going to be making Nigeria food secure. It's an area, he says, and I'm going to be looking at the sub-nationals. I'm paraphrasing. Okay, he says that the regions are going to be made to produce food. Yes, I'm a farmer, but I'm also a miner. In fact, I'm more of a miner than I'm a farmer. I got into the farming business, because when we were trying to develop the ARGP, programs, we decided to create, the ministry then asked us, to do proposals. And we decided to take one project or one product everybody thought was proper, cassava. Okay, and by the time we finished with the cassava bioethanol value process, we had created a $1 trillion, economy out of it. And that is what we can get, because as against, the known or believed perspective that cassava grows in only 20 frontline states, cassava actually grows across all the states of Nigeria if you're able to contain, the season challenge and turn into the cycle. And there's only one factor here, it is water. As long as you have water, to be able to feed those plants, they will grow in arid zones.
Okay.
This is what we're trying to do. Now, we're also involved in a component of the cassava economy that we're trying to create, and we're tying it to livestock. Okay? Now, if you grow cassava and intercrop it with soya beans, which we are doing now, you are going to be producing animal feed, okay, that will make your cattle twice whatever size they are. And then a component of that feed also now goes into your aqua systems. So it's all about understanding the interlinks. And then if you're talking about this volume of land, the 500,000 hectares of land that Mr. President talked about is not in the purview or in the control of the federal government. It's actually at the local government and the state levels.
Okay.
So this is where again, a major gap is. So if you have an agricultural policy that does not have program and action, now the policy will be that wish list, or like he said, the guide, borrowing from you, Claire. But, you know, the project and action component will now be where you start doing the delineation and start doing the identification of those who must play a role. And I can tell you this, the bigger the project, the easier it is for you to raise money. But it is important that that land which gives your project the primary value is identified and delineated. If it's on paper, you won't raise funds.
Before Demola, I know you want to go to either of the guests here. Can you pinpoint any concrete achievement, maybe within the food value chain that, you know, was on the agenda, the development plan that was achieved?
We are almost there from what the ministry is doing now. 2-3 months ago, me and you were here wailing. Okay, people are going back to the farms. I can tell you that for free. The cassava value process is being promoted. I can also say that there's a lot of output coming out of it. There's a determination and commitment of government, especially at the Ministry of Agriculture and the minister. In fact, the last time I had the privilege of talking to him, he said to me that he drove himself, you know, all across about 6 or 7 states to go and look at those farms himself. You know, because there was this talk that, oh, a lot of these foods that are coming out is being imported. And I said to them, go to the fruit market. The pepper coming from Jos is not imported. The tomato, the potato is not imported. I'm not trying to say that maybe the federal government is not importing food, but there is some positive. A bag of potato right now is about 20,000 naira. You know, the pepper that used to sell for 14,000 naira is about 2,000, 3,000. I mean, I join my wife to the market when she goes to buy. Yes.
Where? Which market?
Orange Market. I was there last week.
And it's how much?
Pepper?
Yes.
3,000, 4,000 if you press.
No, if we are talking 5,000.
What is the difference from
15,000? Let's be specific.
Is that from? No.
If you are, it depends on who you're buying from.
The most important thing is
it has reduced.
We agree.
The most important thing is that it has
there's
improved.
a reduction.
There's not a. You see, there's a drastic reduction. There's a drastic from 14,000. 17,000
to 4,000.
Because I mean,
is it a seasonal or is it because of government policy?
It is because
government policy that is driving it.
It is because of government policy to a very large extent. Because if the government policy is not there to encourage you to go, then it can become a seasonal thing. But what government is trying to do now is to move away from season to cycle. And I keep saying to you, one of these days, you don't need to call me to come, so I don't go and prepare the bags. Come to my gate in my house, I'll open my gate. You don't even need to go to, in fact, come to my office. What I've done is I've brought some of those bags, you know, to my office. If you come to my office now, if you live here now, you will see ugu growing in pots.
We'll bring a camera to your office.
You will see ugu growing in pots. Now, as we live here. So if everybody's encouraged, and I can tell you, if you go to most homes now, you will see people planting cucumbers, these are, when you aggregate all together, you find out that it has this effect. And it is all about the commitment of government. I'll tell you because I'm involved. I am growing cassava in bags in my office.
Okay.
So you can come and see it.
WhatsApp line. UNICEF just declared warned that 2.5 million Nigerian children risk malnutrition.
I'm surprised that number is low.
Yes.
For coming from where we're coming from, the number is low because 10-15 years ago, UNICEF had declared 400,000, you know, at the risk of death in just Plateau State alone. So if it's 2.1 million now, it's
2.5. Okay.
For a country that has a population of over 200 million. But are we working? For me, I keep saying to you, at my age, I say to people, I can't be pessimistic for my health. I have to be optimistic, but I'm not just going to be optimistic, you know, by glorifying what I can do. I take that step, and that's why I said I'm on national TV. My friends who come to my office can call in and say, we have seen it. We can live here now. We don't need to go to my house. In my office, you see what I'm talking about. If all of us begin to do this, you'll find out that it now becomes a circle business. And in the UK, you have what they call urban agriculture. as cosmopolitan as they are.
Is that one of the programs that the First Lady is promoting? That in
Every home a garden.
Every home
Every
garden.
You saw her harvesting from her garden.
In fact, the first lady just harvested.
She harvested.
Yes, she just harvested. The September. Yes,
and so she was going to make the thing for her husband.
Yes. Let me again remind the viewer that you may now begin to send in your comments. In fact, we've received some. Kehinde Paul is a regular viewer. We thank you. We'll read out your comments much later. Then, of course, we have Ambassador Caleb from Plateau State, just to let you know that we've received your text messages. And please, the number once again is 081-696-88126. 081-696-88126. That's the number to send in your comments. We are also on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and TikTok.
All right, thank you, Claire. Let's go to Dr. Simon now, who is with us via Zoom. Dr. Simon, we have been looking at this medium-term development plan by the government. I just want to find out from you, what specific sectors or industry do you think the plan should focus on, particularly to drive growth and create jobs, more jobs for Nigerians?
Well, I think one sector will be agriculture, and then maybe the second one should be the digital economy. If you look at agriculture, if it can be to encourage all Nigerians to be farmers, right? And the essence of that is that if everybody is a farmer and everybody is producing, that will go a long way in feeding the country, right? And that also creates, instead of making everybody to be a farmer, will create job
Zoom connection
It's
there.
not.
Okay. Okay, I think we're having some network challenge with that Zoom connection. So let's come back to the studio. Probably maybe Dr. Akinshiju will just probably give us a response to that question. What area do you think this plan should focus on in terms of when we talk about industries in order to create more job opportunities for Nigerians and also to grow the economy?
Yeah, I think the plan itself has defined itself. The major objective is how to achieve the $1 trillion economy by 2030. Thankfully, Dr. Okengwu had told us that even the cassava value chain, could avail the nation of that. So why not? It shows the potentialities of the country. We've always had agriculture being the primordial reference, in the economic sustenance of the country. It had always been a matter of wonder why we could not have fed ourselves, not just fed ourselves, but also become a net exporter of food, given human resources, given land, given the variegated season, climate season, and of course, culture in the country. So even if we are going to focus on that alone, it does mean that we are meeting millions of people in their comfort zone. Household, we've had smallholders farming, that we know had not been economically efficient. So it's how do we make it more efficient? How do we make it more sustainable? How do we provide, for these smallholder farmers where they are and they are able to expand and, of course, become more commercial? The limitation for smallholder farmers is that they produce and take more than 80% of their produce as a personal consumption,
and just leave perhaps 10% or 20%. That 20% of their output is also, of course, under threats of post-harvest losses and all that. So how do we create that efficient ecosystem, around the smallholder farmers so that they are properly engaged now? It's not just about consumption. It's also just about commercializing, the value chain, as it were. And of course, if we are able to do that, the rural economy has a new shine by itself. You go to your village, you know how they live, except for my village now, for instance, where you have millionaires all of a sudden. We've always had that cycle, of millionaires because they are more engaged in cocoa farming.
Okay.
Unfortunately, again, because of a lack of development plan, the trees that are being harvested now were trees that had been, cultivated 40, 50 years ago. And you've not had a renewal of the cultivation of cocoa trees in the last 10, 15 years. So they are actually old, tired trees. So all of a sudden, the global price of cocoa changed by more than 1,000%, as it were. So, but it's the old trees, that have been harvested. It's not efficient, as it were. But again, we have people that are making millions out of it. But if we had that projection, if I don't know the exact number in terms of what possible number of trees that were inherited by this new generation of farmers, but what we know is that we are sure that no sufficient numbers of new trees had been added. So my own thinking is, yes, agriculture important, but there should be a continuous, issues of exertion, policy exertion in that field. Manufacturing, industrialization, that also is a major provider of jobs and the creation of wealth. But again, I'd always been an advocate of the service sector. It had turned out that the service sector, either we like it or not, had become a major, contributor to our economy. Okay. And I also believe that you have more jobs being created in that sector, and there's a need to actually drive it. The federal government is driving it, and there's a need to actually drive it. And it may be actually the lead part, to that $1 trillion economy. Achieving that size of economy has multiple implications. Of course, it does mean that if your economy is expanding GDP-wise, it does mean that a number of things are happening. Okay. You are cycling out more people out of poverty. If the latest figure is talking about 90-something million Nigerians living under the poverty line, it does mean that if you have an active economic space where your GDP is increasing, you are impacting that level of poverty, and which is important.
It's good you talked about the growth rate of the GDP, because I was going to ask you if we are aiming at 1 trillion in 2030 and we are doing let's say 3.1 something GDP growth rate now, in 4 years, at what rate do you think we can improve our GDP growth rate, real GDP growth rate, to be able to make the $1 trillion in 2030?
Well, I think the federal government, that's an advocacy again that is being led by the finance minister. It's talking about 7.7 to 7.5% GDP growth rate every year annually, and that is achieving that is what would, of course, allow us get to that, enable the accomplishing or achieving that $1 trillion economy. We need to move from the average 3.4, 3.5 that we are looking at. I think we should be able to do 5%, in the next 1, 2, 3 years, because the enabling environments, are being created, as it were. We are seeing policy changes that are creating new economic ecosystem, as it were, in the Nigerian economy.
So the implementation is also usually the big challenge, for any development plan now. So what do you see? What do you think they should put in place to ensure proper implementation so that all these advantages can be achieved?
Well, implementation is policy positioning. Appropriate conceptualization of policies. And that should be what the
federal government, does as the supreme regulator of the economy. Ensure that the market economy is flourished. Ensure that the social intervention, is a major channel of circling out Nigerian poor. The population of Nigerian poor, for me, is burdensome, even on the economy. If you have more than 90 million people living under the poverty level, it's a major drawback on the economy itself, because we are talking of more than 90 million inactive, non-economic agents, as it were. So we need to have that social intervention. And from my audit of what this government had done, there had been a lot of interventions at different levels. But getting to meet those who are beneficiaries of those interventions are another thing. I would wish that one of these days we will be able to audit those who are directly benefiting, either at the level of ICT training, at the level of grants to farmers. Of late, we are talking of 20 million farmers accessing grants and all that. We hope that this is not just about paper projections. They are policies, and these policies.
Okay, you have some comments there.
Let me just bring in Dr. Kemgu before we take the comments, and I'm just wondering, because we were talking about rebasing our economy, and we rebase our economy, and I don't know, I don't have the exact figure now, but I'm sure it's in 340
something trillion.
Yes, so we are looking at 1 trillion in about 5 years' time. Do you see this development plan driving us towards that?
Yes, if you're able to identify those 90 million people that can contribute 30,000 or that can earn 30,000, and out of that 30,000 pay a tax of maybe 2,000, you will get it. So it's all about these people you call poor. And I'll tell you a story. I'd been invited some years ago. It was when Sudan was still boiling. There was a program in South Africa, and they had asked, that I come to do a paper. And when they were showing the clips, I told the person beside me that I didn't see where the people were sitting. And they said, okay, what's your mind? They're sitting on the ground now. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, that's my point. So if we can come all the way from Africa to come and sit here, and then we're trying to raise money to go and buy grains, to go and give to people, and part of the grains we're going to be getting are grains that are being planted by people who are doing drip, then something is wrong. Is there anything that can grow here? Is there any way we can make it grow? Is there anything called desert agriculture? Now, Claire, you find that these people will call poor as intelligent, and maybe more intelligent, more wise, because for them to be able to survive under that very harsh condition, it means that there's something they are doing, right. Yeah. And me and you, they don't pay you salary in 2 weeks. You start fretting. Okay? So if we're able to get those 90 million people and then do some cadastre kind of programming, okay, what do you, everybody who's identified, and this is where your data, subset must be done. You must know who you're talking to. We must move from masses to citizens. And what's the difference? Identification. The mass are a mass of people. The citizen has an identity, is known. Okay, and against this, if you're talking agriculture now, for instance, let me even digress and go to mining. We say we have, 3 billion metric tons of iron ore. It's between Leja in Opi, Gidan Jaja in Zamfara. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 places, Toro in Bauchi. Clear? If you had what they call in-situ value sales of 1 billion of those things, and you were selling 1 ton at $100, which is not possible, and you sold 1 billion, how much have you raised? But also remember that raising that money does not mean you're pulling people out of poverty. You can only pull people out of poverty when you engage them. And this is where you now do this, your clustering. So imagine a situation where the CDC, this is why I didn't mention the local government and I went to the CDC, because that's where we are starting from our cassava value economy. Okay. To be able to say everybody that is going to be in this belt, not in this farm. Again, there's a difference between the farm and the plantation and the belt. Give us 20 young men. They have 20 cadastre units of land. each 1 hectare, producing X amount, 11, tons, 12 tons, 8 tons, 7 tons, valued at this. Do you know what you have done? You have created money. Okay? That man now becomes part of your money bank. He earns money. And then whatever taxes you give or he pays is now used to developing. So it's all about the people. And if you don't understand that people are the base of this, Claire, you can have 3 trillion in your account today and you still have cousins who are poor. But you can have 100,000 naira and you have cousins who have 20,000, and by the time you go home for Christmas, everybody has 1 chicken that they're cooking in their pots. So if you don't understand this thinking, and this is why I keep saying to you, federal government can bring the policy, but if you don't have programs and actions, you're going to be missing the point.
Wow. Okay.
That's quite interesting. Let's take some of the comments that we already have here, and this one says. This one is from Yusuf Shadrach, Ajaokuta in Kogi State. It said the renewed hope is working immensely. The president should continue his good work. May God bless Mr. President and kudos to his good work. Then this one is from Ikoye. It says, I suggest that the only plan is to revamp the energy infrastructure, petrol, gas, power, electricity, solar, wind, etc. This will drive the long-term plans. And Okechukwu Okorie from Abuja says, agriculture is naturally part of Nigerian cultural heritage. We just need to open rural areas, improve technology for planting, harvesting, and preservation. Most importantly, creating opportunities for funds for farmers. Okay.
Okay. All right. I have a number of them. Like I said earlier on, Caleb Lamre from Ambassador Caleb Lamre from Plateau State. How can the gap between rural and urban areas be bridged in terms of Hope Medium-Term Development Plan? Then we have another one from Arabi Kende Paul from Life Camp in Abuja. 3 questions, or rather 3 comments. The medium-term development plan is key to national development. I'm glad that Dr. Okemgwu highlighted challenges that limit achievements of the past and the current, especially rule of the thumb that makes nonsense of the existing development plans. However, a review of the current plan and synchronization of the national budget to MTDP is key to successful implementation. Kennedy also says that key stakeholders must form the source of data and implementation. Thank you, Mr. Rabi Paul. This one is from Kaduna. Engineer Ibrahim Abdullahi is the Director, CEO, System Scouts Technologies. And he says the vision is commendable, but the real test will be in execution, transparency, and accountability. Targets are inspiring. However, stronger focus on tackling insecurity and governance gaps will be critical to success. Good move to align budgets with plans starting 2026, but monitoring frameworks must be clear and measurable. And I think I have quite a number of them.
Maybe,
I have
maybe
Shola.
Pause there so that Dr. Simon can respond before we go for the first break. Because
can I just take the last one? This is the last one. I think Shola Olaleye of Movement for Actualization of Campaign Promises says it's safe to acknowledge government is doing well, but it seems most states are not just involved in the whole crusade, or they don't believe in agriculture as a serious revival of the country. And they advise federal government further encourage the state governors to do more.
So Okay, the director is signaling that we should go on break. When we come back, we'll go to our Zoom guest, Dr. Simon, to respond to some of these comments and questions. So stay with us.
By the special grace of God, I will be turning 65 years old on the 21st September 2025. And this happens to be a Sunday. This is why I have decided to dedicate the day to God for all His blessings in my life and having a quiet birthday. I wish to appeal to those who would like to send a birthday card, cakes, flowers, greetings in the newspapers, or gifts should please send the funds to the designated account for a special project close to my heart, among many others. The completion of the National Library. This will be the best birthday present I could receive. My love for education has informed my decision to dedicate my birthday to this worthy cause. This fund is coordinated by the Federal Ministry of Education under Oluremi at 65 Education Fund, Zenith Bank PLC. Account number is 131-031-4977. Thank you for joining me in this building project. God bless you.
For the past five years or more, the world has started recognizing female filmmakers. Female filmmaking and filmmakers was not really a thing initially because it's still a male-dominated sector. But suddenly, women are being put in places that has been able to give us opportunities and open our minds to so many different and unique things that we have been behind the scenes and been deprived of. Now we've seen that this avenue has been presented for us. We are being recognized globally. When we go out there, female filmmakers are now being like put among top 10 of everything that's happening in the world when it comes to filmmaking. So now when we have this kind of opportunities, all these kind of opportunities being presented to us, what do we do as female filmmakers? We are not going to say, oh, we failed at it. There's not been any form of failure. It was just about the right time, and the right time is now. Now that we have those platforms presented to us and the opportunities being presented to us, what do we do as female filmmakers? Do we get up, step up, combine forces, and work towards making sure that female stories are told the way that we want them to be told? Or do we just sit back and still be afraid to push forward? I am one of those people that I'm not afraid to push forward and to make sure that I'm telling the right stories that need to be told as a female filmmaker.
There's so much that females are doing right now. We have females in the box office, hitting the box office, and we have females producers now. So women are not just sent to do makeup or act. There are lots of women coming behind the scenes like myself and also doing great movies because we are good storytellers. We actually tell stories in great details and with a lot of soul and heart. So females in Nigeria are really evolving from just the people that are used in front of the cameras and doing makeup and welfare to directors, producers, cinematographers, and sound engineers, and that's amazing for me to see that in my lifetime.
What we realize, some of the biggest films out of Nollywood are from female, from the likes of Jade Oshibere, from Kemi Adetiba, Funke Akindele. The highest grossing film is from Funke Akindele. We've seen these people have actually taken the baton and they're actually thriving and putting us on the global map. I mean, for female cinematographers, what I want to encourage more people is that we should have more female people behind technical team. Like, it's not just the directors, like the fancy names. We need to encourage more females to actually take roles behind the scene, technical roles. We need more female in the gaffer department. We need more female in the sound department. Now we have more female editors, but we need more of that. What that does, encourages other people. You're not just going into the film industry as a makeup artist. You know that you will thrive if you decide to take on other roles that are technical because you think that you give you a job. I tell people that it's not just about training people. Do they have pipeline to actually grow? Not just even train them, give them jobs. Let them grow. Let people know that it's possible for them to actually thrive in these roles.
The same way that I can go out there and combine with other top female filmmakers, and we can combine forces, partner, collaborate, and make bigger and greater things happen together. So I feel like this is the time. The world is seeing the power of female, and we have it. Is in our hands, and now we're making the very, very most of it as female filmmakers. Yeah.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Our discussion is still on the renewed Hope Medium-Term Plan 2026 to 2030. Before we went on break, we're reading out some of the comments and questions from our viewers. Claire, you have some of them, so that
Yes.
Dr. Simon Zoomgate can respond. Can you just repeat
Yes.
so that's just to...
Okay, this one is from Ambassador Caleb.
Yeah.
Dr. Simon, he said, Caleb says, how can the gap between rural and urban areas be bridged, by this medium-term development plan? And just also to add to the comment from Arabika Inde Paul, that is aligning the sources of data and implementation.
Thank you. Let me make a preliminary comment before answering those two questions. Globally, the United Nations has Sustainable Development Goals. And then on the African continent, we have Agenda 2063. And then the Nigerian government came up with Agenda 2050, which is a perspective plan, right? Just like China did, and China today is a roaring success. We want Nigeria to be the next China. And this is a long-term plan that is succeeding the Vision 2020. It's a 30-year plan from 2021 to 2050. And because it's a 30-year plan, it's been divided into 6 parts of 5 years each, which are the medium-term plans. And we're just ending the first phase of it, which is the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025. And we'll soon be starting the Renewed Hope Development Plan, which is slated for 2026 to 2030. And this is in a bid to achieve $1 trillion economy as been proposed by Mr. President. And I think it's a noble thing because we want to achieve a sustainable and inclusive growth. And that's where I'm going to answer Ambassador Caleb's question. When you have economic growth that is inclusive, that is sustainable, that bridges the gap between the rural areas and then the urban centers. And if you look at agriculture in particular, I know for now prices seem to be a little bit better. Food items are affordable, they're available, but that's largely because of imports. So we need something more sustainable. And that's where the government has to play a huge role in funding agriculture, in incentivizing agriculture, in making sure that agriculture is fixed. And if agriculture is fixed, that benefits the rural economy as well as the urban economy. But the larger chunk of the money goes to the rural economy, and that really bridges the gap between the rural and urban centers. And food security is very important. So if you do that, a lot of people will be lifted out of poverty, particularly those people engaging in farming, and also other aspects of the economy, such as the digital economy, particularly for young people. So all these things are important. I think it's commendable. But achieving $1 trillion economy by 2030 would require us to grow at more than 20% per annum. And if you look at what the plan is proposing at 7%, is very unlikely, if not impossible, not to discourage us, but for us to face the reality. But there's nothing wrong about wanting to achieve something big, about being ambitious, about trying to make the economy stable, about trying to sustain the reforms that Mr. President has, alongside his team, has largely brought up.
There's another question, David Nnamdi Nwiwu, and David Nnamdi says that I want to categorically say that the price reduction in foodstuff has absolutely nothing to do with government policy. It's just the season of harvest and due to the large inflow of food commodities in the market. Dr. Akisuju, just a question I would like everyone to answer. What can this new development plan do differently, that people can see, that it is impacting on the food security? You see, when we is saying it's obviously that he doesn't know or he's not feeling the impact of the development plan on food security.
So when someone submits that the food pricing, as it were, has nothing to do with government policy, but because it's harvest season. If we have food during harvest season, it's actually as a result of policies.
Because you don't just also have things to harvest because you created or you commanded them into existence. I know that over the last 5 years, I'm not an expert in agriculture or farming, but I know that over the last 5 years there have been this conscious, efforts to transmute from our season-based agricultural farming processes to all year-round cycles of farming.
Okay.
So you have wet season farming, you have dry season farming, and all that. And so when you are able to also to create that threshold of activities, it means that you have more to harvest during harvest period. And yes, there was this policy of importation, open the space for selected entities, approved entities to import, without levies or import duties. But I think that was for 6 months. First, it took a while for it to take off. And after it took off, it was for a given window. I think that window is closed. But I also believe that while that was going on, there was a lot of engagement with local farmers. But the important thing is also to be able to touch base with the thinking of Mr. President. Especially if a president is able to envision the fact that, look, the challenges we have in area of food production is no longer about food security. For us, it should be about food sovereignty. So it does mean that the idea of importation should not be part of the template of addressing food challenges in Nigeria. So to a large extent, do we have policies in place now that is going to drive a lot of activities in that sector of the economy? That is what I want to see. I am also monitoring that, monitoring policies, especially of engagement with farmers, and of course about funkifying, food production, because you have a new generation of people, of Nigerians, who are not interested in the subsistence way of farming, and therefore you must make farming, agriculture generally, more attractive, more aligned with their cultural perspective, as it were. So of recent we are hearing of more tractors coming in. I was with the governor of Niger State, who I would claim one of the champions of these new ways of farming.
Okay.
So you have more tractors coming in. There are targets for estate farming. So in a way, if we are able to crystallize this, it will bridge that urban, rural migration. And these are basic economic concerns over the years, how to stall rural, urban migration and all that. And the simple solution had always been meet the rural people in their comfort zone.
What do you think about, because I keep going back to that before Dr. Kengu comes in. What do you think about refining or reimagining the Anchor Borrowers program? I mean, that was a program that, had, positive impact, although there were elements of, misapplication thereabout. But what do you think about that sort of, program driving the food value chain?
It will still be the foundation of whatever will be the innovation that we need to apply. Okay. But it is not in the place of the CBN.
Yeah, that's why I said that's
the reimagining now.
Yes.
It should not be the CBN that is driving it. It's not the Central Bank of Nigeria that should drive it. The Ministry of Agriculture, yes. Other entities in that ecosystem, yes. Private sector is actually the foundation of the anchor borrowers. So to a large extent, if we are able to have a community of tiers of government, the federal, the states, the local government, actively involved, in engineering or re-engineering this anchor borrowers thing, I think it would work better. Okay. But definitely not the CBN.
Not the CBN. Okay, let's bring in Dr. Okengu. Earlier on, you talked so much about citizens' engagement in this implementation of this renewed medium-term hope plan, and my question would be, what mechanism do you think should be put in place to ensure that the plan reflects the needs of an average Nigerians?
Creating economies. Creating economies. The livestock is an economy. Okay. Yes, somebody had mentioned insecurity. About 60% of what has promoted or is instigating insecurity, is tied to our livestock. And at the back of it is now where you have the climate change challenges that has now occasioned some kind of, forced migration. If you had a containment plan, for those cattle on forced migration, both cattle, men and beasts, you probably will have that cattle coming to Nigeria and then stay in secure places. And then it will create three distinct economic streams for you. One will be the forage. Okay, because for you to have 24 million cattle in a country, you'll be requiring about 500,000, tons of feed to be able to feed them on a daily basis. And imagine when you are producing that amount on a yearly basis, okay, year in, year out, what it will be contributing. It will be requiring probably some other things. Okay. So see, only forage alone that is creating 500,000 tons of a daily requirement. Imagine the jobs it will create at that local and base level. Remember I mentioned the cadastre system. And I give you a very typical, I don't know if you've, maybe one of these days, anytime you're in the UK, try to take a train from the UK to Paris North. You're going to be passing through their countryside. I do that ride, every time I'm there just to see cattle. It's so, relaxing. It's you now do. I'm trying to drag it to agrotourism. Now imagine the role now of livestock in agrotourism. So it is all about us, thinking this thing through and thinking it properly. Okay. And it's so easy to do so, my brother Demola. And what do? You have to do this against that, creating, the volumes that can be able to now start triggering your value systems. So first and most important is to know how many people are where. And I tell you, the first rural area that became very cosmopolitan, you'll be very shocked, is Abuja. This Abuja, was one rural bush. Way back in those days, there was only one road, that came from Suleja. In fact, Suleja was more livable than Abuja, was then. But today, Abuja is seen to be a global city. Why? Because there are three things that happened here. The first thing is, fiscal infrastructure. The second thing is now the support, institutions. The third thing is that people now started moving in here. But Abuja also now developed without an aqua economy. Now, this is why, for those who live in Abuja, it now seems as if, price of living here is too high, because the rural people are now the ones who seem to be producing everything. Those of us who have now come into this rural space and turned it into an urban area. I mean, way back in those days, for those who are here, people were begging people to move. People were forcing people to move. People were giving land allocations for free in places like Maitama et al. And nobody was interested in taking them, because the question is, what are we coming to do in this bush? Today, this bush has become an international cosmopolitan city. So in trying to drive, point I'm trying to make is that what makes you rural, are basic amenities. Okay. The moment you have energy and have infrastructure, no place needs to be rural. Okay, but you might have countrysides. You might now have, belts that you create to be able to now keep, some sense of, that back end. So there's so many things. Maybe we don't have a lot of time and there's so many people in the room talking. But what's important for government to do is that we must have a think-through program. Okay. And we must learn that pronouncements coming from the executive, would be what you people call in government anticipatory approval. Okay, like when the minister approves something, usually it is called anticipatory. Now, what is that anticipation? That those who are now technically, who have the technical know-how, will now be able to now walk the fine lines, walk the thin lines, bring out that project development or project proprietary document, which is very key. But what we do is, at the moment there's a pronouncement, we are going to have 500,000 hectares of land under cultivation. This is what the president wishes to have. But there should have now been a technical working, committee to evaluate. And this is where you will now start bringing in, these your inputs. Now, I think Mr. Nwiwu has said it's about production. It's a plus. Okay, if he says it is because it's a season of production, it simply means that he's agreeing that there's production. Okay, but what you now do, like Nii has said, is that you don't want to produce on season. I was one of those who promoted, the cassava in bags. And when I went to pull that, I took a bet with somebody very high up. He says to me, look, Emeka, this thing does not have any, the yams you can grow in bags. I've seen your yams grow in bags. How are you going to grow cassava in bags? Because cassava grows, diagonally. How are you going to be achieving this? I said, okay, let's take a bet. I planted 1,000 bags. The day we went to harvest, I took him. I had my heart in my mouth. When they pulled that thing, we were making the video, he started screaming. And I said, do you know what I didn't want to convince you about? Everything you see in this bag is the same sand that you've molded to put this cassava in. It's just that you now have something that is holding onto your cassava. So if you have a bag, as it's growing, down. It might not grow as huge. But surprisingly, it did exceedingly well. I'll share that video with you, Claire, so you can understand what I'm talking about. So creating, and this is important, an economy that takes care of everybody has to require something through attitude.
Okay.
All right, Dr. Kengu, thank you. I think, Dr. Simon, just if you may, in 60 seconds, we know that AfCFTA is the next continental, market square, for all African countries and, of course, indeed the rest of the world. Do you see this development plan aligning, with Nigeria's, aspiration towards capturing that market?
The Agenda 2050, which the Renewed Hope development plan is part of, right, fully aligns with the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, and then the African Continental Free Trade Area is part of the Agenda 2063. So it's in perfect alignment, and if we are going to make the most of it, the Nigerian economy will be better off for it, particularly considering the fact that we have the largest population. What we need is to stimulate purchasing power, and that will go a long way in supporting growth and development within the Nigerian economy for the Nigerian people.
He said, thank you, and I like that.
Yeah, okay. Let's bring in Dr. Akeshiju now as we're winding up this conversation. The message this plan sends to investors, both local and foreign investors, about Nigeria's economic prospect. What message?
Thank you. It's a message of hope. It's a message of planning, which is the cornerstone of development. And of course, it's a message of engagement, especially as related to the African Continental Free Trade Zone. I see Nigeria playing a huge role. Already we have private sector operators that are spreading, in the African continent, either in the banking sector, banking brands, cement brands, and now the petroleum refining brands. So we are seeing domination in those sectors.
Thank you very much. Your parting shots.
Patient capital. That's what's missing. Patient capital.
Patient capital.
I like that. All right. Dr. Emeka Okengwu, development economist, of course, and always a farmer. Thank you very much, as always, for your clear thoughts. Let me also thank Dr. Nii Akinshiju, Financial and Investment Analyst and Chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative. Thank you very much, sir, for your clear perspectives. Dr. Samson Simon, Chief Economist, ARC Economics and Data Limited. Thank you very much for your contribution. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you.
All right, that's been Good Morning Nigeria for this Wednesday. I hope you gained a lot, because I did. I'll see you sometime during the week. But Demola will be here tomorrow.
No,
Friday.
No. Claire.
He will be here.
Ademola Adeoye, thanks for keeping time with us. Do have a lovely day.
He must be here.